I would like to introduce you to Dave and Sue. Dave is, I mean, he's known by everybody. If you've ever done any motorsport event in East Anglia, I'm sure you probably know Dave. He is the face of marshalling in our region. And he's also been chief marshal at a number of really high profile events. So Dave is a brilliant advocate for marshalling in our area. We're also really lucky to have representation from Motorsport UK, which is the national governing body for our sport here tonight. And we have Sue Fletcher, who works within the volunteering team. So, yeah, without further ado, I'll pass over to you both. Dave, please do introduce yourself.
Well, yes, thank you for that, Laura. I'm not really quite sure if it's me you were talking about or somebody else, but yes, thank you very much, and good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm just going to run through a little bit about myself and let you know how I got into marshalling and the sort of things that I've been involved in. So about 15 years ago, I first marshaled my first event. I was invited by a friend. It was out on a night event, something he was convinced I would be interested in. And to be blunt, he wasn't wrong. I enjoyed it far more than I expected to. So for about 9 years, I've been marshalling on that one particular event and a couple of others that happen in the region. And they were events that only happened once a year. So I kept going back and just found out how really good it was. So after those 9 years, I thought, well, I'm sure I can do more. So decided to throw myself in at the deep end and just see how many events I could actually get through in a year. And it sort of went from one extreme to the other, really. I managed about 25, which was very good, and it covered a multitude of varying different disciplines. It also led me to meet an awful lot of people, and there really are a lot of people involved in motorsport in the region, and to be blunt, they are a fantastic crew. One of the good things that you'll get out of this is meeting some really amazing people, and you will make fantastic friendships. That much I can guarantee you. So I carried on doing that for a few more years. Obviously doing that amount of events, it wasn't just limited to the region. It's taken me all over the country. I've actually been as far north as the Isle of Mull, west out to the Isle of Man for national championships, southwest down to Somerset, and south as far as Kent for Targa rallies, as well as Brands Hatch and Snetterton for the Circuit Rally Championship, and down to Clacton for the first ever closed road rally in England, which was, to be fair, I can genuinely say that was something I was very, very proud of being a part of. Soon obviously got to know an awful lot of people and decided after a while to take the next progressive step and try a bit of organising. And I've since then adopted the roles of assistant chief marshal, sector commander and secretary for a lot of our local events. And I soon realised that this was a great way of developing my own personal skills, as well as maintaining those long-term friendships with like-minded people. Now, there are many different types of events that all require marshals, from 12 cars and scatter navigationals to production cars, Autosolos, Targa rallies, sprints, circuit rallies, closed road rallies, and many more. Although to say, after doing all of those, my personal favourites are still the production car trials. They're not the biggest of events, but they really do have such a great atmosphere. Personally, I just think they are absolutely great to go along to and get involved in. What you'll also find with several of the different disciplines is that there would be 7 or 8 within a challenge that Anglia Motor Sport Club put on per year. So you will get used to seeing an awful lot of people a lot of the time, and you just get to know them, and you will have a good time. And as with all motorsports, there really isn't an us and them attitude between the competitors and marshals, because they know only too well that if it wasn't for the marshals turning up in the first place, they wouldn't be out enjoying themselves in their love of motorsport. So I can just highly recommend, give it a go and see what you can get out of it for yourselves.
Thank you. My name is Sue Fletcher. I'm the Volunteer Development Officer at Motorsport UK, looking after marshals. But that's only been since the week after Grand Prix last year. But as far as my motorsport marshalling life, something I've always wanted to do since the age of about teenager, something like that. Used to watch the rallying on TV, but never really knew how to get into marshalling. Then in 2010, I took myself off to Le Mans after my father died and saw female marshals, which was the first time I'd actually seen female marshals sort of in action. So when I got back, I then made an effort into actually trying to find out how to marshal. And so I started marshalling in August 2010 at Castle Combe on the start line. The following week on the Saturday, I was trackside at Silverstone, and then on the Sunday, I was marshalling at Hill Climb at Prescott. And the addiction has sort of carried on since then. As you can see on the slides, I am graded in 4 out of the 5 disciplines that are actually part of the marshal pathway, which is the new grading scheme. And then in 2021, I felt I wanted to challenge something that I'd always wanted to do since I'd marshalled at Wales Rally GB in 2010, and asked how I could become a scrutineer. So I used basically all the knowledge I had as a marshal to how to find events and contacts, and started scrutineering. And that took me to a lot of grassroots. So I did some Autosolos and trials, because you get very different cars obviously at those events that you get at the events that I'd been scrutineering on circuits and at rallies. So I've been a scrutineer and an environmental since last year. And then once I started working at Motorsport UK, which was something I never thought I would ever do, but I saw a job and I thought, oh, that sounds like me. And it sounds like something that I could actually then put everything that people have helped me all over the years as a marshal, something back into motorsport volunteering. So I've been working there since July last year, and hopefully I can make life a bit more sort of communication between marshals and Motorsport UK. So that's a potted history of me.
So, what is marshalling? Now, I'm sure you've all seen some form of motorsport on the television, and whenever you see people scurrying around dressed in orange, those will be your marshals. But it's not just limited to rushing around for incidents. There's a wide variety of roles to take on, often behind the scenes and not really in the public eye. So you may not be aware of them unless you get involved yourself. But it's certainly the best place to be for a bird's eye view of the action. Now, you may find yourself standing trackside at a circuit rally event, or you may be in a lay-by on a very quiet country lane, awaiting competitors to pull in to have their time card signed. It's very, very different depending on the disciplines. You could also be standing on a grassy hill, ensuring cars make it through each marked gates without contacting them. Typically that would be for a trial, or observing cones as a marked gate, an auto solo, recording any strikes they make, and then replacing the cone, obviously once it's safe to do so. The main thing to remember is that as a new marshal, you will not be left on your own. It's not just, right, there you go, get out there and do it. You will always be put with an experienced marshal, and they will show you the ropes and answer any questions that you have for them. doesn't matter how silly you think that question is at the time. If you have the question to ask, go ahead and ask it, and they will answer you. And you never know, within time, you may well be that next marshal, passing on your knowledge to another new marshal. Sue, I don't know if there's anything you can add on to that.
Well, I am one of these marshals in the do start line, finish line, and my favourite assembly. This weekend I'm marshalling at the Goodwood members meeting in the paddock, so I'll be doing the tannoy in the paddock office if my voice holds out. But yes, I mean I found it's you put in, you find that it's very addictive. I mean, if you've got a free weekend, it's like, oh, where can I go and marshal? I mean, there's so much out there, and you can do so many different things, and it's a brilliant way of making friends. Certainly all my friend base comes from marshalling, where I met my late husband at a motorsport event. Then he was diagnosed with cancer. It was all the motorsport community that were there to support me, and it is one huge family. I think it's the best thing that I ever did. It's just brilliant. I mean, it's I know.
Yeah, it is just being part of one massive large community. As you say, everybody does rally around to help everybody out. Absolutely fantastic. So who can marshal? Quite literally anybody. From the age of 11, as a cadet marshal, there are various different disciplines that you can be involved in. So there really is no holding you back. There's a very wide representation of indiscriminate marshals within the motorsport. The door is always open, and there'll be a warm welcome for anybody who wants to come along and join in. For some people, it is their opening, their gateway into starting their motorsport career. Other people, it's sort of they're at the end of their career and they want to give something back. So as a way of sort of saying, thank you for all the marshalling you've done for me over the years, I'm now going to put my later years back into marshalling. For myself, it's actually neither. I do it just because I actually love being that close to motorsport itself. And it's suited me down to the ground, to be fair. And it's very, very typical that you will often hear words that repeated, but they are very, very true. And these events would simply not happen without the marshal. So the more of you that we can encourage to sign up and start marshalling, the better. Now, I don't know if we've got anybody listening in at the moment who has joined as a recent marshal, who has anything they can contribute towards us at the moment. I can't see who we've got. No, all looking fairly quiet.
I'm happy to contribute on that, Dave, if you want.
Yes, please do, Vinny.
From my point of view, is I'm mostly a competitor, so I compete on Autosolos, Targa rallies, and stage rallies. But you always feel that it's nice to give something back. So if I'm competing in an Autosolo, a lot of these guys are going to be out there allowing us to have fun. So what I try and do is marshal on events which I'm not competing at, such as trials or 12-car rallies. So there's a lot of that. A lot of the marshals that you see out there, even on high-level events, some of them actually are competitors on grassroots or other types of events. So from my point of view, my experience in marshalling came from initially getting involved as a competitor and then helping out as much as I could to keep other events going.
fantastic. And yeah, it's something every other competitor must be grateful that you do, and I'm sure a lot of the others do it as well.
I mean, I don't know if it's still the same, but it used to be with the caterers, that if they did a day on the bank at a race circuit, they would get a point, I think, or is it a signature towards their license, I think. But it's always good if I know certainly at hill climbs, I've marshalled at, if competitors aren't actually competing and then they actually go on the hill and assist as a marshal, is that they're actually quite surprised how, you know, how fast the cars are going and how close and everything, and how you're really involved.
Excellent.
And one point, which I don't know if you're going to mention later, Dave, is every club or a collection of clubs, they organize marshal championships. So if you marshal at an event, you let them know, and your points count. At the end of the year, you might get a trophy, or you might get something for marshalling. So that's quite interesting. Thanks for mentioning that, Alan.
And yeah, so that's for competitors that are in challenges. Is that what you're saying, Vinny? That if they're not actually competing, they can marshal to pick up points?
What I'm saying is there are clubs that organize trophies for marshals. So you marshal on as many events as you want. Those points are collected at the end of the year. You might get a trophy for the marshalling that you've done.
Right, Marshal of the Year trophy.
Yeah.
Familiar.
There has been in the past, as we know, events or championships which you marshal in other events, say an Autosolo championship. You are competing on that, but you marshal on a Targa rally event, and you might bump up your points on your driving championship. But I don't think that's running around our area anymore. So it's separated between marshal championship and driving championship.
Fantastic. Yes, I'm very familiar with the Marshals Award, having won it for the last 3 years on the trot. So yes, I know the one that you're talking about. So what can you actually expect to get out of marshalling apart from the occasional trophy? It's entirely up to you. It depends on how much you want to put into it. If you're going to do 1 or 2 events a year, absolutely fine. Or you can throw yourself in at the deep end and do as many as you wish. But as I've said before, you will develop some wonderful friendships with people within the motorsport community. And it's also a fantastic way of developing your own skills. But still slightly more than that, you become part of a big national friendly community, and it's one where everybody shares their passion for all things motorsport. Marshals, otherwise known as the Orange Army. As I've said before, if it's not for marshals, these events simply will not happen. And obviously you can also take it further in such roles as clerk of the course, secretary of the event, recovery, medical crews, etc. There are so many different disciplines alongside just being a marshal. Plus also, if you are ever looking for new employment, putting a motorsport marshal as your hobby sounds far better than the usual travelling, reading, going to the gym, blah-de-blahs. So I'll ask again, have we got any new marshals in the audience who've got any experience they wish to draw on?
Dave, could I just add in there? I think marshalling is a great way that also, if you're looking to get involved in motorsport, you've never been involved before, you don't know what it's about, you don't know what discipline you want to have a go at, it's a really great way to go around, meet new people and find out about the sport on the first instance. So I just think it's a great grounding to meet new people, to meet your motorsport clubs and get an idea of the events that are going on in your doorstep, and a fun day out. It's brilliant, because also what you haven't mentioned, that is another reason why quite a lot of people enjoy going marshalling, is that you often get rewarded on the day. So you might get a free lunch, you might get breakfast and lunch tokens, get a bacon roll. But also sometimes when you marshal at a bigger event, such as the Corbo Seats Rally, there's often merchandise that you might be able to take away as a thank you for marshalling. So it might be a branded hat or a branded bag or that sort of thing. So I think that's a nice little thing as well that you get out from marshalling. Little memento.
Yeah, on
Right.
smaller events, you might even get a passenger ride, but don't tell Motorsport UK. A couple of points worth mentioning that Brian reminded me. An interesting thing that you might be able to get out of marshalling is, if you are in the field of motorsport, all that experience that you gain marshalling or competing is certainly worth putting on your CV, because that shows that you are involved and you are active and trying to understand more about motorsport in general. So it's good to show that on your CV. It certainly helped me. I'm in this field, and it's definitely a benefit showing on my CV that I'm involved in grassroots motorsport, marshalling or competing. The other thing that I would like to mention is, Dave mentioned different roles like clerk of the course, secretary, and other roles apart from marshalling, which you can get more information about from a presentation that Brian Hemmings has done in the past. That will be on our YouTube channel at some point, I believe, Laura, is that right?
Yeah, it will be going on shortly. I'll put the link out on our social media once it's ready.
Great.
And we've just had a message from Kim. Kim, thank you for sharing. Kim has said she registered last year after helping out on the local Gym Kart rally for 2 years. Kim says she loves it and she cannot wait until the end of the month to start the next year's season. Oh, thank you, Kim. That's really nice to hear.
Dave, can I just quickly chuck something in as well? Just sort of expanding on like the marshalling side. I think a big thing for me, I've been involved with motorsport for a really long time, but it's not just the people and the connections and the relationships, but it's actually the places that you get to go and experience. Like David said, he'd been down at like Clacton, so the Corbo Seats Rally, the first one closed road motorsport event on the UK mainland. And we were all there on a piece of public road which had been closed, which you don't get access to. Brands Hatch, I've been very fortunate to help set up Brands Hatch. When do you get the opportunity to walk up and down Druids Hill? Welsh forests, airfields, like getting to experience those really special, unique parts of the country with a whole team of people that you've just got so much respect and admiration and connection with. It's very, very rewarding pastime.
Yes, absolutely right, Ben. Yes, some of the locations really do make the event. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that.
Sam, would you like to talk about your experience marshalling on the Preston Rally? If for people who are not familiar with different types of rally, we've got Targa rallies which tend to take place either on forests or airfields. The tests are laid out with cones, and you drive around those tests as fast as you can. It's timed. You need a navigator to tell you where to go. Now, the Preston Rally, which takes place around the East Anglia, it's many Targas joined together overnight, 150 miles of driving through forest, farmland, hard surface like tarmac or loose surface, whatever. It's very intense and extremely interesting event. And that event relies on about 200 marshals overnight to keep it running. So, Sam, if you'd like to give us a bit of a flavour of what it is to marshal in an event such as that.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, I'm a competitor in Autosolos and Targas and not so regularly sign up to Marshall to give something back. And the Preston is a kind of mythical event that happens once a year. I've never been, definitely don't have the resources to enter. So marshalling was a fantastic way to experience what it was all about, really. You hear little snippets and see pictures from here to there, but it was really something else to go and experience it firsthand, and even get trained on the night starting post. That was a great way to get into it and learn how to do start procedures. So that was really good. My brother came with me, and so did a friend, and we all joined in with a very experienced marshal to show us the ropes. So it's it was a great night overall, and going to different posts and seeing what was happening. Really good. So and the other added bonus was to see quite a lot of marshals that would be doing our events in the summers actually competing on the stage rally, and that was great. A real reverse of roles, so that was really cool to give back to them, so they could enjoy the sport they love.
Excellent, Sam. Thank you. I guess the one burning question is, would you do it again?
I would, most definitely. Yep, I'm signed up. Finally signed up last week to the Clacton rally. So looking forward to that in a few weeks. But definitely the Preston, I'd go back and marshal for sure. That was really good fun.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. Okay, so again, how far can you take the role of marshalling? Well, I've also already mentioned some of the various different roles that you can go ahead and do. I would strongly advise joining your local club. They will definitely be able to help you out. If you're not sure who or where your local club is, please do feel free to contact anybody at Anglia Motor Sport Club, and we will more than happy to help you out. But as far as the marshalling pathway goes, I think I'm much better off passing this one across to Sue.
Thank you. So the Marshall's Pathway is the new grading scheme that is coming to, has taken over from the previous grading this year. It's basically looking at the main 5 disciplines, which are, if I remember rightly, rally, race, off track, which is what used to be called specialist, speed and kart. And it's trying to make it so that all the disciplines run the same. So you start off as a registered marshal, which doesn't matter which discipline you are in. And then you do, depending which discipline you are, you do, I think it's on most of them, apart from rally, you do a minimum of 5 days. And then you also do training, and then you upgrade to grade 1. And then you spend a minimum of a year, and then you do 20 days, and then you go up to grade 2, and then it goes on a bit further, and then you go to grade 3. So it's the same depending whichever discipline, apart from rally, which is slightly different, because rally, there are less events to do. It's really, we've tried to make it so that everything is in black and white, so you understand, how long you have to be in one grade before you go to another. As far as martial training is concerned, most in-person martial training actually takes place between January and March, so pre-season as far as circuit speed is concerned, but obviously rallies and karting goes on throughout the year. Then some clubs, so there's the Scottish Motorsport Training Club, I think it's called, and the British Rally Marshals Club, they both do Zoom training, which runs throughout the year, and a lot of that actually are Motorsport UK modules that you then, once you've watched the Zoom, you get asked some questions, and then you complete the questions, and then you get sent a certificate. So that can then go towards your training as far as upgrading is concerned. It's really, it does cover the main disciplines, so it doesn't cover things like autosolos and trials and a lot of the grassroots marshalling, but that doesn't mean to say this, you know, that's just as important. It's just there isn't a way of recording it as there is as far as for circuit racing, etc. There is an email address that's towards the end of the slides if you have any further questions that you can email me about, and certainly I'll try and help, or if not, you know, answer questions at the end of the slide presentation.
Sue, I've got a question for you. So this is a formal way of going up in a marshal position.
Yeah.
But suppose you want to get involved, you want to come and marshal at an Autosolo or whatever. Can you just contact the organizers of the event, register and turn up?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a registered marshal at all. You can just literally contact the chief marshal of the club and just say, you know, you'd like to marshal. The marshal pathway that I'm talking about is more for the, you know, circuit based, the big rallies, the speed, you know, the hill climbs, the sprints, the kart meetings, but certainly all the grassroots, you can just turn up and marshal, and you'll be put with somebody that's more experienced to explain. Certainly when I marshaled on my first trial this year, I was put with somebody that knew what they were doing. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions that you want to answer at the moment, or do we just carry on? Anything?
I don't know. Do we have any more questions in there, Laura?
I didn't know.
I can't see anything at the moment.
No, there are no more questions, written questions, and no one has their hands up for now.
Okay, so as Sue has quite rightly pointed out, with the more grassroots type of events, you will literally get on-the-job training. So you can contact any of the organisers of that particular event, let them know that you'd like to come along, try a bit of marshalling, and as I've already said, we will make sure that you are put with an experienced marshal, and these will include your production car trials, Autosolos and auto tests, Targa rallies, sprints, 12 cars, etc. All what we regard as grassroots motorsports. So if you're interested, do contact one of the organisers and we will do everything that we can for you to get you involved.
Right. So as far as if you want to marshal at any of the circuits, the hill climbs, the big rallies, kart meetings, then we do ask that you do register with Motorsport UK. It is completely free. It takes perhaps between 20 minutes and 20 and 30 minutes to actually do. And for that, you do get a marshal tabard. Basically, once you've signed up, you get a welcome email, and then you just complete a form to order your marshal tabard, and you get a registration card. And that registration card showing that you're a registered accredited marshal is basically the way in to marshal at events. And really, you can marshal at nearly everything apart from the British Grand Prix and some touring car and Goodwood meetings. Everything else you can apply for. And certainly with the rally, the various rally stage team and different online portals to register for marshalling, it's the Motorsport UK number that you need to actually be able to apply to marshal at these events. There's also various benefits that you get once you are a member, and also the digital magazine that has various articles throughout the year, and that's every month. Can I say next slide, please? Thank you. So to find where you go, you basically register on the Motorsport UK website. And then once you register, then you have to do the marshal registered accreditation course, which is the next slide, please, I think. Okay, yes. So there's two ways of finding the course. Either the photographs go through in sequence, and one of them is the registered marshal accreditation course, which is showing on the slide there. Or if not, if you go through volunteers, then marshals, And then you can then pick the screen that says the Registered Marshal Accreditation course. And basically for all the courses, you click on the pictures. What I forgot to say was when you created your registration to start off with, so your password and login, you then have to use that to get into the Learning Hub, which is where all the training courses are run. You basically work your way through the Registered Marshal Accreditation course, which is in various sections. So you don't obviously have to do it all in one go if you don't have time. And then when you've done all parts of the course, you have to download the certificate, but you don't have to print it. That's the part that actually then goes onto our system to tell us that you've actually completed the course. You then need to wait for just over an hour because it basically, depending on what time you've actually done it. So if you've done it just after the hour, it will take the 55 minutes. If you do it like 1:59, then you only have to wait 1 minute. But if we ask you for wait an hour, then you log back in with the login and password that you created, and then you just finish the registration, which is a case of putting your personal details, uploading a photograph, and also putting your emergency contact details. You will then get a welcome email from me when I'm next in the office. So it depends on, you know, if you do it on a Sunday, I should be able to do it on Monday. As I say, that has the link for the Marshal Tabard. And then probably about 7 to 10 days afterwards, again, allowing for bank holidays, you will then get your, excuse me, this is what happens, sorry about this. You will then get your Marshal registration card. So that is the card that shows that you are actually a registered marshal. There's also various other courses on the Learning Hub, which is on the slide there. And we will be adding more training modules onto the Learning Hub throughout the year, which means that when it comes to marshal training at the start of next year, some of the modules you'll actually be able to do online. So which means that actual at marshal training, there'll be more chance to do practical marshal training rather than having to sit for death by PowerPoint as it used to be. So really that's the basics. And then it's a case, you know, the most important thing is enjoying marshalling, and you know, the world's your oyster really, and it's very addictive. As I found with, I think I was doing something like 90 days a year at one point. So,
well, Sue, could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So with the Registered Marshal Accreditation course, what sort of content does that initial online course cover, and how long does it take to complete?
Okay, so the whole registration process is somewhere between 20 minutes and 30 minutes, you know, without the hour. It covers basic marshalling. It was originally designed for rally marshals, so it's a bit rally based. However, you know, it covers everything that you really need to know as a marshal. And we ask every single marshal that is registering with us to complete the course so that we know that everybody's got that basic training. And it is a very good grounding, whatever, you know, marshal discipline you actually do.
Oh, lovely, thank you. So it sounds really straightforward then. Sort of can be.
I mean, it's and also, sorry, you know, if you've you know, registered or if you've been a marshal for a few years, it's always worth going to revisit. You can do it as many times as you want, and you know, it's a good refresher to do as well. And if you do have any questions to me, the email address at the top comes straight to me.
Thank you. And for any queries at all regarding Anglia Motorsport Club or motorsport in East Anglia in general, you can email that through to hello@amse.org.uk. And also, if you're not following us on social media just yet, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok now. So give us a follow, because we'll also be posting more information out after this meeting. So we now like to open up the floor. Has anybody got any questions at all? Please feel free, put your hand up, type them in the chat, or unmute yourself and speak now.
Dave, I've got a question for you. Would you be able to tell us a day in the life of a marshal? So from sending an email or registering at the website for a particular grassroots event, all the way to arriving at the place, marshal's briefing, and then timing or whatever, and then the end of the day as well. Would you be able to do like a run through a timeline of it?
Yes, I'm sure I can do that for you. So as I've already mentioned, one of my favorite disciplines are trials. So I'm going to pick marshalling a trial for a day. So typically you would register your interest to marshal at the event 3, maybe 4 weeks ahead of the event. So that's your initial registration done, which is online, takes but a few minutes. Then generally a week before the event, you'll then receive a signing on form to basically confirm that you will be going to the event, and it's a Motorsport UK signing on form. You'll then be sent out Marshall's finals, which will basically tell you where the event is, what time to be there, and a very brief breakdown of what's expected of you if you'll be asked to use your smartphone for any of the timing or recording scores, etc. So you would then typically on that morning, one of the most important things, as you know, motorsport happens 365 days a year pretty much. Check the weather and dress accordingly. I have been caught out so many times, either coming back home as red as a lobster or as wet as the sea. So do check the weather. So yeah, you'll turn up to the event. First thing you'll need to do is go and actually sign on, let them know that you are there, meet with the Chief Marshal. Typically on those types of events, as you've mentioned before, there will be free breakfast or free lunch. So you'll pick up your voucher, you can go and get something to eat. You'll then be given a time for your marshal's briefing. Now that's conducted by the Chief Marshal, and he will give you a rundown on your own personal safety, which is the most important thing about marshalling, because if the marshals aren't safe, then the people competing and the spectators definitely won't be safe. So listen to everything that he tells you. You'll be allocated your position for that particular event and who else you'll be with, particularly if you are new to the sport. As I said before, you will not be left on your own. So you go off and follow whatever directions you're given. At some point, there will also be a lunch break, and then you'll return again in the afternoon for 2, maybe 3 more runs. And then at the end of the day, one of the most helpful things you can do after the event is to actually help break down any furniture that's been used on that event. It saves an awful lot of time for the organisers. And then typically you would go back to the headquarters, for want of a better phrase, where normally within about 10-15 minutes you will then wait around for the presentation for all the competitors that have taken part, which is always worth hanging around for. Quite often there is also a marshal's door, so again, worth hanging around, because you never know if you're going to get that box of chocolates, that bottle of wine. Always worth hanging on to. So that is, in a nutshell, a day's marshalling on a trial, without me going into the actual event itself.
Oh, thanks, Dave. We've had a couple of questions come through. The first one is marshalling usually dangerous? So I think I'll let you answer, or both of you, give some insight into this one.
Usually no. If you listen to the instructions and if you read the regulations that are sent out to you, then no, it really isn't. That there are certain aspects of it that really are common sense. No, you wouldn't stand on the outside of a bend on a rally. It's just common sense. And no, I genuinely don't see it as dangerous. There may be freak occurrences, but you would get that in any sport.
Oh, thank you. So is there anything else you want to add from a sort of Motorsport UK perspective, anything with insurance and that side?
No, I mean, it's you know, listen to what you're told, where to stand, you know, things like hay bales, catch fencing, trees, depending on what sort of discipline you're at, are there to protect you. And, you know, as long as you, as I say, as David said, you know, there are freak accidents, but you can have freak accidents anywhere. So you just listen to what you're told and you know, look after yourself and your fellow marshals.
Lovely, thank you both. It is a controlled environment, for sure. Kim has written in, she's asked whether you could possibly give any sort of examples of different marshalling jobs or positions, for example, a start, a timing, that sort of thing.
Do you want me to? Or?
Please do, thank you.
Okay, so excuse me, something like rally, you can have time, certainly as far as the main, you know, if you go through the pathway, there's two main disciplines, so you've got timing and radio. But as far as marshalling, you can, you know, you can assist with timing cards. You don't have to physically do the timing with the clocks. You can just go and collect cards and then, you know, go and take them back to the competitors. There's assisting with radio cars, so putting out the flag if need be. With speed, so with hill climbs and sprints, you've got the start line, you've got paddocks, so depending whether there's a return road or not, you may have a bottom paddock, which is where the cars live, and then a top paddock if there's no return road, where they end up once they've gone up the hill, and where they sit until they're released back down to the bottom again. And then as far as circuits are concerned, you've got your basically sort of your on-track roles. So you've got the incident, so the people that go and push cars. You've got people flagging, so the people with the cloths or the lights nowadays that you see as well. And then with what used to be called specialists, which are now called off-track, just so they're more, you've got on-track and off-track. So you've got start lines, so again, people that grid cars, that put out the warning flags. So if cars are, you know, like with touring cars, if they're going 2 wheels off or whatever, or if there's a mechanical issue with a car, they do those flags. Then you've got pit lane that looks after the cars when they come into the pit lane, that if there's any discrepancies, so like if they do a jump start, then they have to come in for a 5 second or 10 second, whichever it is, you know, or a drive through. They also look after if there's refueling, so they make sure that the people refueling are correctly dressed and there's not too many people working on the cars. You've then got assembly, which is where the cars go. It's a bit like, it can be a bit like a car park, so you park them in order of the grid before they go out. And then something larger, meetings, so like Goodwood, where you've got a paddock, which is where all the cars are in different shelters, and then you get the cars out really 2 races before they're actually on the start line. And then with karting, it's a bit different in that you have things like a dummy grid, which is a bit like the assembly, where the carts go, and then you have somebody doing a starter role, and then you've got people that flag, and they also calling if there's incidents around the kart track. And then you have incident marshals, who are the ones that go and retrieve the carts if the carts break down or break themselves, or and they pull them back off the kart track. So there's various different roles. And I mean, apart from karting, I've done, you know, different disciplines and different roles within all the different disciplines. So it's nice to do different things at different circuits. And as I said, it's very addictive. Hopefully that answers the question.
It just shows there's so much variation. And Alan has just typed in and said, at true grassroots level, you can also become involved in technology-based solutions such as Rally App Live, Timing App Live, and Trials App Live. Very easy to use from a timekeeper, marshal, and organizer perspective. So there's so many different angles within this that you can get involved in motorsport from being a marshal. Do we have any final questions before we move on? And if not, you're also welcome to email any of these after this meeting to the email addresses shown a couple of slides ago. So please do join us, come and be part of the action. This webinar is part of something called Motorsport Month. This is something we're putting on during April, so Anglia Motor Sport Club in collaboration with Motorsport UK to promote the opportunities to come in and get involved in motorsport in East Anglia. So here is just a little calendar of what's going on this April. We're currently sort of the 11th of April, so we're nearly halfway there, but there's still so much that you can get involved in. So if you would like to come and marshal, if you'd like to come and have a look, you're more than welcome to come to any of these events. A really exciting one to marshal on would be the Corbo Seats Rally, not this weekend, but next. Like Dave said, and Ben, something really, really special when they were involved in that first ever running of that event in 2018. And it continues to be a really, really special event in the region. So that would be a great one to come and get involved in. And again, you know, you would always be buddied up with somebody, with other people who are more experienced. Really great day out. So yeah, please do get in contact with us if you'd like any further information. Next steps would be speak to your local motorsport club, have a look at some events that you might like to come along to see, contact the organizer and go onto the Motorsport UK website. So much information on there. And there's, of course, the marshalling accreditation course that you can complete completely free, which will get you your marshal's tabard and your card. So thank you all for coming. I hope you find it useful. Thanks, Dave and Sue, as well, for leading this session.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.